Welcome to A Place for Film, the IU Cinema podcast. On this week's episode, we're talking about hidden gems. All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the show. My name is Andy Hunsucker.
And I'm Jason Thompson.
And on this week's episode, we're talking about hidden gems. The idea is, movies that we've seen that we think maybe more people should see. If it's something that, you say to someone, hey, have you seen that movie? And no one's heard of that movie. So we're gonna cover some of that. Maybe a lot of them you have heard of, and you know exactly what we're talking about. And you say, oh, everyone knows that movie. But that's whatever. We're covering movies that we think people should not have seen. And with us this week is our new production assistant.
That's right.
We hit the big time. We've got we're big enough that we need some help. So Sarah Doyle is our production assistant, and she'll be helping us out doing things in the background. You might hear us sort of say, "Hey, Sarah, look up that thing for us," or something along those lines, and she'll be helping us out in the background. And we thought, what better way to introduce her to the audience than have her come on the show and sort of talk about movies that she likes, because you are a film lover.
I am.
So you've got a lot to say, I'm sure.
Probably.
So we will find out. Well, let's get to our topic of the week, which is the hidden gems. And again, we didn't set any sort of real specific kinds of restrictions on this. So the idea, I guess, at least when I wrote down my list, it was movies that I've seen that I liked that I don't think a lot of people have seen. So I don't know what you guys thought of, if you thought the same way, or if
I picked the Star Wars trilogy. Is that going to be a problem?
No, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay.
So it's new to me.
Okay.
It's new to me.
I'm talking about the prequels.
Yes.
I'm talking about the original trilogy.
So. I didn't even know there was an original trilogy, Jason.
Good. Well, then your mind's about to be blown. I could start off with a very obvious one, but I'll start off with one that I saw more recently called Buried. It's got Ryan Reynolds in it.
Okay.
Essentially, that's the only person in this movie, other than the person or people that are on the cell phone, and you just hear their voice. Essentially, what it is this guy wakes up, and he is in a coffin, a wooden coffin, underground, we'll say 4 or 5 feet under the ground, and he has a number of supplies, including a cell phone, a glow stick, a lighter, and perhaps, I can't think of anything else, but the cell phone works.
Yeah.
And he finds himself basically in a situation where he has to figure out how to get out.
Yeah.
Get out of the situation. So he makes some phone calls, tries to utilize the glow stick and the lighter, and things go south. But you would think, hey, a Ryan Reynolds movie where it's just Ryan Reynolds trying to talk to basically himself for, I think it's about a 90-minute movie.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be interesting. But it's really engaging.
Yeah.
It really is. And, he has his moments where he freaks out, and he even turns around in the, the coffin. And so, he's acting in a very tight space with a camera shoved right in his face. That's essentially what it is. There's a lot of interesting camera work, though, in this movie as well, to sort of demonstrate sort of the claustrophobia of being stuck in a coffin, as well as having to deal with getting out, or the possibility of never getting out, and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. That one seemed to have a lot of buzz before it came out.
It did.
I heard a lot about it before it came out, and then it came out, and I didn't hear another thing about it.
No, because I don't think, I think the premise I think the critics all saw it and they all liked it, sort of as the mandatory, like you have to go see so many movies, and they just got stuck with that one, or they wanted to go see it. They saw it, they liked it, but I don't think it was powerful enough because the concept is kind of weak for a mainstream audience, which is why it's sort of the first one that I wanted to mention. It's something you said that triggered it, and I thought, I want to mention this one because it's still fairly recent and it's accessible. I know that for sure. May still even be available on DVD in some places for you to just go rent it, or I think it's on Instant Watch. But it's definitely worth watching. I really enjoyed it. The ending's a little but it's still really it's a concept movie, and it is really well executed, I thought.
Yeah. Cool.
So there's one of mine.
Yeah.
Well, that actually, Ryan Reynolds is in one of mine, and he's, not playing Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've seen the Nines.
Yes, I have.
No,
Yeah.
not familiar with it.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. You see sort of 3 different sections where he is a different person. And I sort of, you think you know what's going on, and it takes a few turns. And usually, sometimes those turns are pretty easily to spot. But this one, I really didn't see the end coming. I didn't realize it was going to be...
I think I watched this after I saw Buried. I thought there's got to be, he's got to have done stuff that I've never heard of, and that was one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does take a couple interesting twists, I thought.
And I thought at the beginning, he's probably just going crazy. Like I had all these plans worked out. It's one of these 3 things.
Yeah.
Not even close. So I like it when it surprises me. So that was nice to see. And he's kind of playing the same character, only different person almost. And like he's a video game developer in one of them, and he's a writer for one of them, and he's got all the same people around him. And at one point, somebody breaks out into song, and it's just completely random.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's essentially this. It's almost in the sense of, what if this happened?
Yeah.
So like if I took you, Andy, and I said, what if this happened to Andy rather than this? And then those 2 personalities split. You would still have the same.
So is it sort of like sliding doors, that kind of idea, or is it?
Sort of.
Okay.
In that sense, but yeah, you see these different sort of perspectives on the same person, but not the same person.
They kind of run into each other at some point.
Okay.
But it's hard to talk about that one without really giving it away.
That is it, and I know that one is definitely available because that's how I just was like, let's go see what Ryan Reynolds has done, and I'd never heard of it until I saw it just pop up one time.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
That's a good one. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah. I'm going to throw another one out there that again has another big star in it that I know not a lot of people saw because it did nothing in the theaters, and that's George Clooney in The American.
I haven't even seen it.
I know. I keep trying to get everyone to see this movie. I want everyone to see this movie, and no one listens to me. So I'm going to keep my campaign going to get people to see this movie. It's about George Clooney, and he is. It's not about George Clooney. George Clooney's in the film, but he plays an assassin, and but he's like a great assassin, but he's kind of done. Like he doesn't want to be an assassin anymore. But he's an assassin. He's done a lot of terrible things for a lot of powerful people, and they don't want him telling anyone about it. Right. So people are after him. So he kind of he goes to this Italian city. I think it's in Italy, and this like little Italian village or whatever, and he's trying to sort of stay hidden, but at the same time, somebody's like, you do this job for us, and then maybe these problems go away. And it seems like it's a very sort of straightforward story, and but it's so still and quiet. Like George Clooney, I swear, if you ran his dialogue from end to end in this whole movie, at the start of the movie, it might run for about 15 to 20 minutes. Like he really says almost nothing, and it's a lot of long scenes of him like, setting up his gun just the way he likes it, or building a weapon for someone. I think that's part of what it is. Like he's building a weapon for someone else to do an assassination. And he's sort of like casing people, but he's so quiet and so still. And I think that's why people didn't like it, because it was sort of marketed as an action movie, like a George Clooney action movie. And so people went to see it, and it's like this really kind of quiet, almost like I don't even know who to compare it to, but just this really kind of quiet, still kind of movie that it's not. There's very little. There's a couple of chase scenes, but they're not. They don't dominate the movie. It's not like the action set piece or something. And the ending is just absolutely perfect. Like the ending is just so perfect. I can't give away too much, but the tension in the film. The film is very, very intense, even though it's really quiet, and it's because George Clooney plays it so well. He really makes you feel the tension that his character is feeling throughout the entire film, because his character is essentially, on the run. He feels like he could be dead at any moment. So it's a really amazing film. I cannot recommend it highly enough. Go out and see The American. How about we go with the comedy?
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people are dying in these movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, this movie, people die in this movie as well, but it's funny. Not that they died, but what happens around them is funny. Mystery Team.
Okay, yeah.
Mystery Team is a movie. If you're familiar with a guy named Donald Glover, who's on Community, and he does comedy, and he's a rapper as well, like Childish Gambino, I think is his rapper name.
It's great.
Before he did all that stuff, he was part of a comedy team called Derek Comedy. And I guess he's still part of that comedy team. The other guys you probably wouldn't recognize unless you're familiar with Derek Comedy, but it's basically, the premise is so amazing in this movie. Okay, so imagine like an Encyclopedia Brown type character, like a kid detective, except when they grow up, they stick with the kid detective thing. So it's like these kids who are graduating high school, but they're still acting like, 11-year-olds, and they're still solving mysteries like, who took Mrs. Johnson's pie? And they're still charging a dime for their services. Mm-hmm. And then a little girl comes up to their little booth and says, "Can you help me? My parents were murdered." and that's the start of the story. But it's these guys who, are used to, who have no idea how the world works. They're trapped in adolescence, trying to like solve a murder, and they try to infiltrate like a strip club, and so they all put on like tuxedos to like blend in.
Well, don't they do like the triple decker tux? Do they do that in that one?
I don't think so.
I don't think
so.
You might be right, but it's been a minute since I've seen it. But it's got some really funny, just outgoing scenes that they're crazy. I'd seen a lot of their short stuff, and I never thought they could pull off a feature, but they really do in this one. I know my fiance loved it. Like I think you and I had watched it, and then her and I watched it again, and it just blew her away. So.
Yeah, and Aubrey Plaza is in it, who's on Parks and Rec. Mm-hmm. There's a few other people who you'd recognize in it. They actually got a pretty good cast for what they had available to them, but it's just so funny. I mean, it's really, really funny.
And it looks good too. It's shot really well.
Yeah, I mean, they've shot little shorts for years before this. You can look up their stuff on YouTube. There's a lot of really funny stuff that they've still got up there. They shot the whole thing, on really simply, but it looks nice and it works really well, and just wildly funny, and kind of like. Not just like funny and then like whatever will be funny and then the rest of it can just go away. It's like it's got kind of like a nice arc for at least one of the characters. They kind of grow up as they're doing this, and so it's kind of a nice little story that wraps it up. But I could just talk about that movie for hours, but I won't.
It's probably a good deal.
Yeah, but I mean it's on Netflix. You can watch it there, and it's out there on DVD. So yeah.
Well, what I'm going to talk about, I'm going to go towards the romance, drama part of it. Love and Other Drugs.
Okay, yeah.
Came out a year or two ago. Jake Gyllenhaal and Anne Hathaway. Yeah. It's a really good movie.
It is.
It is a really good movie.
I liked it a lot.
For what it is. I think you had watched it based on my recommendation. So it's been mentioned before, I'm pretty sure on the podcast, but just a movie that really does more than what I ever expected. Because I just saw it in the theater just to earn some brownie points to go out on a date, and I was blown away by it. I thought, wow, this movie's got way more meat on it than I ever expected it to. Because the trailers treat it just like this sort of comedy or romantic comedy, but it takes a really interesting dramatic twist right in the middle when you're really not expecting it. But the early stages of it are just really funny, but then. Not only does it get really dramatic, but it sort of maintains that comedic aspect of it in a different way than it does at the very beginning of the movie because of Jake Gyllenhaal's character's sort of transition from the very beginning of the movie to the end of it. You actually sort of are along for this ride as he loves to learn. It sounds hokey when you put it like that, but it makes sense because he's just this real flashy, showy guy who's trying to get everybody's attention because he sells drugs for a living, to these doctors and stuff. So he's got to put pharmaceuticals,
not illegal drugs,
right.
Legal drugs.
Legal drugs. They call them pharmaceuticals.
Yes.
And so he, I always saw it as he's got to put, these doctors make a lot of money. but he doesn't make necessarily a ton of money, but he's got to put himself above them so that they are appealed to him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he meets this girl who's just completely like, no, I don't, no.
Yeah.
But then he's like really turned on by that, and not only in a physical way, but in an emotional way.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have this journey that just goes. I'm actually really happy that they didn't include any of that dramatic twist in any of the promotional
Mm-hmm.
stuff I saw, because it just sort of I think though either you're gonna get pulled in by it or you're gonna be turned off by it. I will say that it will go one way or the other.
And I remember what made me really want to see this was I had started reading like that there was something more to it, and I heard somebody sort of hint at that dramatic twist, and I was like, wow, that actually sounds kind of interesting. Like I guess I do kind of want to go see this now. So yeah, I highly recommend it. Definitely worth seeing. You don't have to be on a date to watch it. You can just watch it because it's a good movie.
Yeah.
So
And I would say not for the kids.
Oh no,
It's
no.
it's a very adult romantic
Yes,
dramedy. I'll say that.
there is a lot of nudity.
Yeah.
A lot.
And
of
not
nudity.
only that, but there's just a lot of like things that kids or even teenagers just would not quite
Yeah,
comprehend.
but it's not like salacious. It's
No.
not like look we
No.
take off our clothes. It's just like two people who just want to be that close to each other.
Sure.
It's not like a salacious like erotic sort of movie. It's just these two people.
It's a realistic portrayal of how
exactly.
two people would just be hanging out
Yeah.
in certain, situations,
Sure.
either pre or post, whatever,
Yeah.
getting together.
Yeah.
But it works. I mean, it really does. It's a movie that just sort of came and went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was more recent, and I think a lot of people should see it.
Yeah.
Because I want to say, was Anne nominated for that movie?
I don't think so.
Or there was some buzz about maybe that she could,
like she could have
because
been.
it was
Yeah.
like the statement movie,
Yeah.
but not a statement movie because it wasn't like trying to put itself out there as
Yeah.
one. So I don't know. I'd have to go back and look to see who was nominated that year.
Yeah.
Because I think she does. I think she does a really fine job, and so does Jake Gyllenhaal. I mean, he's been cranking out movies. Well, he was for a while, but he hasn't lately. And this was just one of those that just kind of got lost in the shuffle because it was around the same time like Source Code came out.
Yeah.
That and I know he was working on that, and they were really pushing him in that. But this is a different side of him that I think a lot of people would be surprised by.
Yeah. I want to mention one more, and it's along the lines of Mystery Team. It's called The Specials. I don't know if a ton of people have seen this, but it's basically about there was a really bad movie with Ben Stiller called Mystery Men that's sort of along the same lines as The Specials. The Specials is basically like superheroes are real, but they're celebrities, and they're trying to, everyone wants, anyone who has superpowers wants to be on like the good superhero teams. The Specials are not the good superhero team. They're like the 6th or 7th best superhero team in the world. So they're they have superpowers, but they go fight like really meaningless battles. The big superheroes are like corporate backed, and like they have the nice costumes and stuff, and the Specials are just like wearing their regular clothes. They like try to cobble together costumes, and like Rob Lowe's in this movie. He's amazing in this movie, and he plays like a character like he's like the top dog in the Specials because he's he's really good looking and he's famous, and he's got like a slightly better costume because he's got endorsement deals and stuff. And basically the whole bit of the story, they never save anyone. They never like go out and fight crime or anything. The whole story is about they finally gotten their own toy line, and that's like a big deal in this world. Like they got their own toy line, so it's all about like them kind of getting ready to go to this, this thing, go to this opening of their toy line, and really excited, and then how it kind of doesn't turn out the way they want to. But written by Sean Gunn, who's written a ton of stuff. He's directed a couple of horror movies. He directed Slither. He directed Slither, and he wrote the Scooby-Doo movies, which I didn't think were any good, but.
Right.
So he's been around. He's also in it. But anyways, very much a hidden gem. Like no one has seen this movie, but really, really good movie.
Okay. Let me just name a few that I haven't mentioned in the last couple of podcasts. Spy Game, Brad Pitt, Robert Redford.
I do have that DVD.
It's on your shelf. I recommend that one for Andy.
Yes.
And the last one I'll mention is A Walk in the Clouds. The last movie I saw at the Von Lee Theater. And I was very young, and I watch it about every year.
Yeah.
And it's a romantic movie. Keanu Reeves is in it, a bunch of other unknowns to us, but very big in their sort of respective countries. It's about a vineyard and a guy sort of doing a very nice thing, a very gentlemanly gesture that kind of gets him in trouble a bit, but in a very romantic way. And it's just a very interesting movie, I think.
Well, let's get out of here. Thank you guys for listening. Sarah is you're going to be around regardless. You'll be if you're watching, she'll be like over there, over in that direction. She'll be sitting there quietly and just helping us out here and there. But thank you for doing that. By the way, we really appreciate it. And maybe we'll have you back on when we just have to. We got to do an episode and we don't have anyone kind of scheduled. So, but thank you guys for listening. Sarah, thank you. I'm Andy.
I'm Jason.
This has been, and always will be, A Place for Film. A Place for Film is recorded at WFIU Studios in Bloomington, Indiana.